Few minutes early before Andy jumps on. I'm about to making a coffee, just waiting for the kettle to boil. But this is the first episode of Here We Are, the podcast. Uh, Andy is a good man with a kind heart and a pure soul. I've met him before when I was living on the beach in Weymouth and he was visiting and we went to Wetherspoons and had a drink and a chat. But I originally met him at a cacao ceremony in someone's front garden in Manchester. Anyway, kettle's nearly boiled and I'm going to allow Andy to introduce himself and tell you all about him. It's Mark earlier. Going to Glastonbury tomorrow. I'm going to try and give my art away. I'm going to take loads of pieces of my artwork and just see who wants to exchange it for something like a smile or a horse or I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, as I've just been creating art and just keeping hold of it, sticking it up on my walls, yeah, but prefer other people to be appreciating it, the message. So yeah, coffee in the joint. It's 7:30 on the evening. It is what it is. This is my pajama top. Got the pajama bottoms on underneath these trousers. It's just one of them days. Another day in paradise. I'm glad to be here. So here we are. This podcast just going to be an introduction to people who I'm inspired by, people with the same mind or heart or general idea about life, understanding that we're here to share, collaboration, and meeting in the middle. Just here we are. Got a long list in my mind of who I want to speak to and bring into this space. I've been inspired by many, many people in this life, and without even really speaking too much on that. And it's time for us all to receive our flowers and acknowledgement, tip of the hat, not validation. Wonderful creatures are humans. Taking this as recorded. Yeah, it's recording, I think. Oh. Here he is.
Hello.
Hey, bro, can you hear me well enough? Is that music too loud?
I can't even hear any music.
Okay, it's just background music, just some frequency thing.
Okay.
Yeah. We're recording, it's working. Yay. Because this is take two, isn't it? Basically.
But yeah, we lost about, how much was it? 1.5, at least an hour, probably more.
Yeah, at least an hour. Maybe it was too long. Maybe that's
Yeah.
what it was. But we tried to record it, but I was only using basic equipment, a screen recording app, and it failed. I had my headphones plugged in, so that might have been it. But either way, it was a scam app, which was just taking energy from me, having to watch ads to use it and stuff. So here we are. I've got a subscription to Zoom. Luxury.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, so I'm going to leave it to you now. You want to introduce yourself for the people that are watching?
Hello. Um, Good evening or good morning whenever you're watching this, or good afternoon. So I'm Andy. I live in the south coast of England, having returned a couple of years ago after many years in the north. I've been on a kind of spiritual, religious, and then not spiritual, not religious, psychological, mental health journey, you name it, quite a lot of stuff. So me and Ben first connected at a cacao ceremony in Manchester with Liam Brown of Dragon's Den fame. And we've kind of kept in touch through Facebook, although not. It's probably more. That's definitely more recent. The last 2 years that we've really started to become more connected. I think because we're on a similar path in a lot of ways. Both feel like outcasts to an extent. So yeah, that's me. So I'm privileged to be the first guest on Ben's podcast. Look forward to seeing how it develops.
Yeah, man. And I couldn't think of a more worthy candidate, Just
Mm,
like we've come to know each other and, not to the fullest extent, but each other's struggles and what we've all fought through.
yeah,
And, it's refreshing to meet people who have managed to keep an open heart in hell, so to speak.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
we've all got a story, and all of our stories deserve to be heard, right?
Oh yeah, it's like I don't know about you, but I often wonder because most of our family history has stories behind it, and I think how did people actually deal with it back then? I've got a theory, perhaps, that generational trauma, and I've heard this said before, that if it's not dealt with by one generation, it passes on to the next generation, and it's even worse for that generation. So that could be why we're seeing, partly why we're seeing a mental health epidemic, or not, certainly not the only reason. But yeah, stories, it's like, people used to say, don't say this around your dad or your mum because they couldn't cope with it. And it's like, instead of being triggered, we need to kind of own our stories. No, it's a work in progress. I'm certainly not fully healed, but yeah, we need to own our shit basically, especially us guys. I think feel like we've got a big because men have a bit of a habit of not speaking out, of staying silent, and we can see the rate of male suicides. I've known 4 or 5 men in this decade alone who've taken their own lives. So it's a serious business, and we've got to let our stories be heard. And excuse my French, but the people who say don't air your dirty laundry in public, it's like I don't care.
You never have to excuse your French. It's okay. You speak whatever language you want, bro. No, but you're right. It is a serious thing. It's an epidemic, and it's like an accumulation. And like you say, down the line, before the ones that came before us, they weren't able to deal with anything, or not to the extent that we're having to. Because the point is, that's like it's the responsibility now, because truth and love, that is what is prevailing, and that means that everything else is being stripped, you know. Ignorance was bliss.
Well, yeah.
When apathy ruled, or when the weight of the trauma was too much, it's like you don't have to, you're not challenged in life or whatever. But that it's like ignorance is bliss, yeah, but it's also death.
Mm,
Ignorance is literally darkness and evil. That's exactly what it is, because light is information and truth, whatever you want to call it. So, yeah, it is a big responsibility. And at times it feels like a curse and a thankless task, because it's like you're working for people who don't have the awareness that what you do,
mm,
everybody's taken into consideration and accounted for. Like, if you're working for everybody, but everybody doesn't understand that, then it's like you're seen as a threat.
mm,
But that's exactly what the Bible shows us, where Jesus was doing just that, and he ended up on two short planks. Like,
mm. Yeah. So in our culture, we have in British culture, if there is such a thing as British culture anymore, which is questionable, but there's a habit of blaming other people for our struggles, and we
yeah,
can all blame our parents, our teachers, our school colleagues, the system, the government, any group that we don't like. Like we see this with immigrants, people on benefits, Muslims being unfairly treated, basically. Um, and we have to we can blame women or men, and that's not to say that um, both men and women have been perpetrators. But if we're kind of blaming the other for everything and not actually looking at our own patterns, it's like becomes problematic.
yeah,
Like I can blame my lack of success in relationships for my brain function or the system or the dating world. It's still my response. Yeah, it has. The system has screwed me over to an extent, but even if things aren't off, we heard this often. Even if it's not our fault, it's our responsibility to face our shit, and we can't do it all on our own either. That's another trap that I think I've come to realise, particularly recently, that yeah, I can share things on social media, but in terms of actually asking for help, practical help, I do find that quite a bit more difficult.
yeah. Because what help do you actually need?
Mm,
It's difficult to put your finger on it, isn't it? Really, because how do you? It's that's not what's available in the world. So
mm,
you know that, like for example, well, the typical healthcare system isn't really for me generally. But then it's
mm,
like, what's that? What's the truth of that? Because it's like all of that. It's like the shadow of what the truth is. I think like so it's backwards. The education system. It's not teaching people in
mm.
know uh, in a substantial way. It's teaching them a very specific way of
Yeah.
remembering stuff. For example.
Mm. Yeah, the healthcare system, yeah, it's not certainly when it comes to mental health, it's not fit for purpose. Like they just give you,
It
excuse
can't.
me,
It's supposed to be, if you, every single person needs a holistic one-to-one approach because we've all lived very unique experiences, even though the root of it is trauma or
Mm,
disconnection, whatever you want to call it, fear, like anything outside of love is what hurt us because
yeah,
love doesn't, it's not harmful.
yeah,
So until the healthcare system starts teaching people to find their own medicine and
yeah,
support them in that, like, for example, cannabis often makes all the difference in me, even in my day-to-day living. If I don't have cannabis available, that can alter the way that my day pans out because where my mind goes. Because, all right, it might be like a safety blanket for me, safety net or something, but it's not the point. And the doctor should be able to honor that and give me access to that without any stress and that, because money, thinking about money is stressful. I'd rather not be doing that. So,
yeah,
for example, have to basically illegally seek my medicine, which brings extra anxiety because I feel I should be free to engage with my medicine wherever I am if I need to, because it's a consequence of having to be around people all the time, and I'd rather just be sitting by a tree. Like that. It's like a connection to a meditative state where I don't feel any threats and I'm more at peace and calm, right?
yeah,
But in some encounters, that makes me a criminal. In some experiences, that entitles a policeman to take that medicine off me.
mm,
Like all of that, that's the world I've been in. Just trying to say to these police officers individually, what are you doing? What are you actually doing with your life? Like, because I was meditate, I was just chilling, bro, and you come into my caravan, took my medicine, like that. I've that happened to me. Like, it's a mad world when you're just trying to keep a level head and show up peacefully, you know?
yeah. There's a lot of things that are a bit upside down. Like bad is good and good is bad. It's like what's the American dream or whatever they call it. Well, I don't even know what the American dream is now, but whatever it was has certainly disappeared in a puff of smoke. But yeah, there's the other point of view that as collectively, we've created this world that we're living in. So with the likes of Donald Trump and our own dear Prime Minister and the governmental structures, until I think, in terms of politics, I think it's going to have to just get to a stage where we people realise that all these parties are just all the same, like Labour and Conservative and Reform. And I don't know about the Green Party, but anyway, nobody's coming to save us. There does seem to be a big saviour mentality at the moment, from my perspective.
Because we all need a savior, and it's just becoming more glaringly obvious to each individual. So yeah, that means frantic energy, a lot of like chaos, and but look, we've already been through that process that a lot
Exactly.
of people are now going to be forced to go through because,
Well,
like I say, it's either love or something else, and those are the two opposing forces that we're witnessing right now.
no, yeah, if the government or whoever the powers that be, if they have the power to completely dismantle a system, or maybe we've got the power to dismantle the system, then it's
Yeah.
like people are trapped in a world of having to work X amount of hours to put food on the table and keep a roof over their head, and
Yeah.
people think this is normal. And there's a lot of so I suppose I've come to realise just how, and we can diss people all we want for being brainwashed over things, but we've all been brainwashed, haven't we? Maybe some more than others, but we've all been fed this bullshit narrative about who at school and by our parents and other people. Yeah, it makes me quite. If I thought about it too long, I'd probably get quite angry.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's about accountability and responsibility, and be like, yeah, we dreamed this, we allowed it,
Mm,
and all right, it's bullshit. So, all right, what we're going to do about that? And the more traditionalist of us might think that we're supposed to like overthrow the government or something, but it's like fuck that, mate. I've got better things to do, like colouring in and just like chilling and that. Like I don't want to. It's not about that. It's about running on a different operating system in the background somewhere, like in the woods, like and just willful defiance and like I don't know what you're talking about. In order
Mm,
to know that, it's like there is a higher power in this life, and it's bigger than any man or
mm,
human vessel in this life. Like that's if you consent to it, you get what you pay for in this life. So vote as hard as you want. Like, but so again, yeah, it's becoming more obvious. So until people are electing like chimpanzees, yeah, then they won't get it. It's just we've had a man with dementia, right? And a man
yeah,
who literally just flexed his financial muscles to sit
yeah.
in the seat of power. So how obvious? And then Boris Johnson, who's literally like a clown. Like, well, what more? What more do you need to know?
Mm,
If you need to be told what to do, if you need your worldview framed by mainstream media or a man in a suit and tie with a clipboard or whatever, yeah. Well, fair play to you. There's not really much that anybody can do for you.
mm, yeah. And yeah, we've both been down the truth rabbit holes to an extent, and yeah, it's whilst there's probably some truth to the story that they've got they, you know, they do think they're in the world. They have plans for humanity which aren't particularly present. At the same time, I don't know. People, there's talk of like protesting fuel price about fuel prices and blah de blah. But I don't know. Maybe the whole system has to come to a complete collapse
Mhm.
before a new world to emerge. Possibly, I don't know.
I think two things are happening at once because, like Einstein said, for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. So, as the world appears to get darker, the light is also increasing. And so, this is the point, right? You can't contribute to the light and take from the darkness at the same time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, love or fear again. But the dark, you have to understand your own darkness. Otherwise, you're just going to go around projecting it everywhere in the world. And that's not adding to the light at all because we are in the Bible, it does say about not taking part in the unfruitful works of darkness, but exposing it, right?
Yeah.
But it gets to the point where you exposing that becomes darkness itself because if you don't talk about anything else, then it's like for the
Mm,
reason Voldemort and Harry Potter is also called He Who Shall Not Be Named, right?
mm,
Like see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. But
mm,
understanding that the shadow of that is ignorance, and then you sort of on your way because it's like in the back of your mind you got this understanding about evil without fearing it, even if it was lurking behind you and stalking you, kind of thing.
yeah. I've had some encounters with what some might call evil forces or some might call psychotic delusion. Yeah, and yeah, it's not pleasant, I should say. Um, and yeah, some of us really do go through what one might call hell. Whilst I wouldn't wish it on anybody, sometimes we maybe we have to go through it in order to get to the other side, so to speak, especially with the trauma that I've had with religion and things like that. I tried for years and years to kind of suppress it or just keep it in the distance, which worked for a while. But then once the COVID years started hitting, it all came back to the surface. And I've had a few mental health breakdowns in the last few years. And it got to a point where my life basically just fell apart. I had to move back like overnight to the south of England with my parents. Like I wasn't. 2 years later, I'm still here, which I wasn't planning. And it's like it was as if all my issues that I've ever had have kind of come into sharper focus than before. So the phrase "it gets worse before it gets better," I think, certainly been true. May not be true for everybody, but it's certainly been true for me. I said earlier that I've known, like, well, in the last 10 years, I've known about, certainly known at least 5 men and one woman that have taken their lives. And yeah, I could have easily gone down that path, but I wouldn't have had the courage to do it. Um, many of us have been in situations which appear to be hopeless. Um, and I think eventually the thing that really helped me get better was socializing or speaking to people again, because I isolated myself in my most recent mental health episodes. And yeah, because I thought, it's as if I thought I was being um, maybe demon possessed or whatever other term you could call it. Um, it was like I was going down a dark slope and I couldn't see my way out. Um, and I think, yeah, a lot of it was trauma based, and some of it was what I would consider psychosis, losing touch with reality, which is probably more common than people think. Well, reality, what is reality really? But
Yeah.
yeah,
No, but I know what you mean. It's. I think the point is you're not able to see this at the time, obviously,
mm-mm,
uh, but it's about being in a state of completely being powerless,
mm,
control, and yes, losing your mind because you can't. Um, it's difficult to negotiate, and you're not expecting
yeah,
certain events. And that's the point, like it's literally going through hell, isn't it? It's like the wilderness where your soul's adrift and it doesn't seem to be connected to God or something.
yeah,
Because in the background, that which we know to be true about God, whatever the real God, the truth of God is, that's what's protecting us in this life and guiding us through.
yeah,
And the fact that some people don't make it through to the other side is kind of proof that everything we've gone through was necessary because we went through it in order to be able to help other people
mm,
probably have a softer
mm,
navigation through
yeah,
that territory, murky, because the
yeah,
point is to not be projecting your own darkness out into the world because that's what's disempowered humans, to allow them to be told what to do by a man who's proclaiming himself to
mm,
be a king or a prime minister or whatever.
yeah, yeah, for sure. And it's like there's a lot of, well, people aren't believed when they talk about, like, whether it be about mental illness or abuse. Often people aren't believed, and I think, yeah, I've had that in the last few months, definitely. And going back to the healthcare system, you can tell them, like, the doctor's only got about 10 minutes to see you, right? Which isn't enough, really. But you can tell, I could tell a doctor whatever depressed state I'm in. I can tell them any story, and all they'll do is put me on a pill. They said, "Yeah, we need." I mean, one of my long-term aims is to provide support services for people in crisis, because, yeah, having navigated some really serious stuff largely on my own at times, it's like I don't want to see other people go through that. And they must. It's vitally important that people get the support they need. A big elephant in the room is the lockdown and how it impacted children in particular, and maybe that's the reason why there's so many diagnoses of autism and ADHD. Some of them may not be actually that, but they need children definitely need something these days. It's like we've we've been through lockdown, and it's almost as if we should forget it even happened and forget about the trauma it caused, and it's like only the people that got the virus and died that mattered, and nobody else matters, which I think is very, very wrong. Yeah, and I think lockdown did a lot of damage in terms of mental health,
Yeah.
probably a lot more than even I realised.
Well, yeah, because of the impact of trauma, like the
Yeah,
fact that nobody speaks about it, it's because like they're not remembering it on purpose, or they can't, they don't have access to the memory, because that's what, to my mind, trauma is like fragmentation of the soul or something. It takes away a certain part of your essence.
yeah, I'm sure there's bits from my childhood that I can't remember or that I've blacked out.
Yeah. I have the same, like I have a feeling of something without having the image available. And I
Mm,
think it all becomes relative, really, because it doesn't detract from our responsibility to deal with all of that.
yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah,
ultimately, we have to, in order to move forward and create any change, we have to let go of everything, don't we? Like the weight of non-forgiveness and that, for example, because let's have it straight, yeah. It was pretty fucked up. Dot dot dot. All them things, like times millions and billions of people worldwide. Like the world is a madness. Like we've been trained to kill each other through
yeah,
competitiveness and division. Like
yeah,
it's literally the world that we have to go and try and survive in.
yeah. I find forgiveness hard. I'm not gonna lie, I find it very hard. Yeah, I'm the kind of person that can easily bear a grudge. Yeah,
Yeah, but if you can see the correlation between that and how harshly you judge yourself, right? It's
yeah,
like therein you have the key because I know I find it hard to forgive myself, and that doesn't even make sense to me because it's like I've logically forgiven myself without fully investigating the feelings or the
yeah,
truth of like I don't know, some of the things I've done or like I don't know. It's like I hold a grudge against myself somehow. So I think I'm really understanding how self-care is the antidote to that, and just sort of relaxing on the idea of what self-care is in any moment, you know? Just being gentle with myself and like for balance, I'm forgiving myself every time I realize how good my heart is when I actually remember, because I know that the mind clings on to negative in
mm,
any context for like literal survival purposes. Like if you got chased by a bear, then you'd want to remember that bears chase humans sometimes, kind of thing.
yeah, yeah, for sure. But yeah, there's. Guess I just want to delve into the new age spirituality because where I'm at with it, it's like it became a bit of a belief system, like things that you do in the spiritual community, some of the rituals you have, and I don't know if it would. We talk about authenticity quite a bit. Um, I'm beginning to get annoyed by that word because it's so overused. But I think as the saying goes, I am my own guru, and I know I've been looking for something to follow or some teachings to help me feel better. Whether it be getting more money or love or friendship or just seeing things that I want to happen. But then you've got all this law of attraction stuff. I think there's probably some truth to it, but it's it's more complicated than some people make it out, especially if one has a lot of trauma. Because, like it or not, trauma doesn't disappear quickly. These stories of overnight spiritual awakening, I just don't believe it anymore. I'm not sure I ever did, but yeah, I don't know, what is spirituality? I think for me, it's just self-discovery and finding out what I like, finding out the things I like to study, the hobbies. Like, as you know, I'm a big football fan, and I like and snooker as well. And sometimes these two things watching sport or just listening to music, that can be spiritual as well. I think we've separated work, things like meditation, and then just normal day-to-day activities. We've put it all compartmentalized it into different sections of life. Whereas true spirituality is just all the flavors of life, things that we enjoy doing, how we do things. We do things with love. Maybe it's all spirituality is just about love. I don't know. What do you think? Just going to turn the light on.
I think spirituality is your relationship to your soul and your experience, like understanding that your relationship to reality and your experience is malleable. It's
Yeah,
like gardener of something instead of moaning that you inherited like an overgrown waste ground. It's like being thankful for the beautiful garden to be that you were given.
mm,
Like just, whatever. The word God, that causes so many different reactions, and that's frustrating for me because when I say that word, I mean something very specific. It's not what people think. Just because of some like I don't know, dirty humans who have used that name in vain or whatever, or the
yeah,
amount of different versions of God that are available. I just mean like love. Like it all boils down to that, don't it?
yeah,
Simply, God is love and love is God. Or truth
mm,
as well, those three, that's like a triangle. So yeah, just it's everybody's responsibility to have a connection with that, like the energy that permeates everything.
mm. So what do you say? You should be interviewing me. I'm kind of interviewing you. What do we talk a lot about living from the heart? How do you see that? What's living from the heart to you? I'll go afterwards.
It's just about being balanced in your emotions so that you're like at a still center,
Mm,
so that you're not putting out too disturbing ripples into the field, and also so that you're not so reactive to any other energy.
mm. Yeah, that's good. I like that. Yeah, I think for me it's just a case of doing the best I can with the resources I've got. Listening to my body is part of it. But yeah, just I guess the higher self, living from the higher self, um, comes into play, and just yeah, to be honest, I felt a bit disconnected from the heart during the last few months, and I'm trying to get that back. Um, but I suppose yeah, when you come back to being grateful, it's like be appreciate what you've got. Like for example, you can I haven't been able to travel as much as I like within the last 2 years, but at the same time, I could see opportunities to appreciate parts of the world I live in, which I've known for a long, long time, but like recreation ground nearby, places like that. You can kind of look at things with a bit of a different pair of eyes and maybe see things from the perspective of everything is divine. Um, yeah,
Yeah, I think the difficulty is it's like you have to own your victimization and you have to acknowledge that we have been victims. Humanity, whatever bullshit's been running, it
yeah,
wasn't for us, obviously. So, but without becoming a victim of that, like rising above it and saying, well, we build something else then, because that's nonsense.
yeah. I think yeah, it's important to have some kind of fire in your soul that keeps burning even even when the circumstances of life try and snuff it out. Like how have we kept going when we've had so much to deal with, and it's like I hate the word these days, but with a certain amount of resilience and also just how you got to know your why are you here, what what is your purpose. There's a guy called Simon Squibb. If you've not heard of him, you should definitely check him out.
Heard of him yet?
Yeah, he's very well known these days. But his story was that he got kicked out of home at the age of 15, and he had to start. He was kind of forced into working for himself. And to cut a long story short, he sold his business in 2015, 16, and then moved back to the UK, and now he's helping other people, funding other people, helping other people, and asking them what their dream is. But he talks about purpose being found through pain. There's a lot of talk about purpose. Maybe that word is slightly overused sometimes, but I think we can, the saying everything happens for a reason. Well, maybe it doesn't, but we can still make something, we can make a reason out of it, like to help others. And I think that's got to be at the heart of everything, to help other people, because if we're just working for ourselves and we don't give a shit about anybody else, it's like, well, we might as well not. What are we even doing here? So I think, yeah, we can find purpose out of our pain, but the purpose is like helping others in whatever way we can, I think.
Hmm. Yeah, because being self-centered or centered in yourself is not necessarily a bad thing if your intentions and your actions are aligned with morality and a higher standard of living and watching
Yeah.
out for each other. But because the moment you entirely only care about yourself, that's literally the definition of Satanism.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the Antichrist. The Antichrist isn't like a politician or one particular individual.
No.
It's like a just an energy, and it can and like if it was working for everybody, that would literally be like a zombie apocalypse, like in society.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so I think, yeah, selfish. It's given a bad rap, but sometimes it is. Sometimes we do, like particularly women. They've been conditioned to give, and not and neglect themselves. Men too, to an extent. Like the whole society is kind of like we saw it during the infamous early 2020s when there was all this talk about caring about others, like don't be selfish. If you take the vaccine, you're selfish, granny killer, and all that nonsense. Um, and it became like a way for people to virtue signal that they're better than others, basically. But at the same time, we're sovereign beings, so we have to make choices that align with ourselves. Because if we are denying ourselves, then that's problematic, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so it's about assuming collective responsibility, but as an individual and just saying, all right, I acknowledge it, and we must do better, even if it's just only me working by those principles. Well, it doesn't matter, does it? Because the worst case scenario is that I'm just getting blessed by living a good life. Best case scenario, at least someone else or loads of people take notice and start changing their lives. Otherwise, I don't know, carry on regardless, you know? It's enough to be able to rest at night when I sleep on this earth and to help as many people as I can.
Yeah, and it's the kind of the left wing mentality. Like there's I do see problems with that in terms of like you can, how do I say this? It's like there's like blind support for one group, one viewpoint, but being and saying that you're tolerant about everything, but being very intolerant about other people's viewpoints. And I'm not saying that it's acceptable to be racist or xenophobic or anything, but let's just talk about one controversial topic, immigration. Now, I completely draw the line when people put laughing emojis at people dying whilst trying to cross the channel in a dinghy. That is just, it's disgusting. Um, but at the same time, look at the bigger picture of immigration, like the part that England has played in wars, and yeah, and also why are people coming over here? Like, but at the same time, it is a bit of a concern that the mass immigration, from the point of view of a British citizen, could, I mean, it's not necessarily helping that having so many people and not enough resources, but at the same time I can understand why people, like, if I was in their position, I'd probably want to come to the UK as well. So it's like you can't exactly blame them, but uncontrolled immigration can become a problem if it goes beyond a certain level. So it's things like that that we need to have discussions about without shutting down the other person's point of view.
Yeah. But it's about if it's about asking questions, right? Then it's like the people are asking the questions at least to the wrong people, if not that wrong questions entirely anyway. Like deflection instead of asking, well, who's letting this happen? Because if nobody can stop it, then whoever's claiming to be in power is very weak. Like they're, you know what I mean? So it means that it's been allowed and actually provoked and instigated probably somewhere along the line. So
Oh,
anything that causes unrest, it all comes down to one thing, doesn't it? Just another way to divide us.
yeah, division's always the name of the game. Yeah, and sometimes I wish I could just live a peaceful life and ignore the world events, but I find it quite hard to do so because whether we like it or not, we're a global society at the moment, and it's probably not, well, it's almost certainly not natural to live this way. But the way that things are happening with like the genocide in Gaza, for example, we can't just pretend it won't affect us because it could do down the line, and we all know a certain politician who nobody particularly likes, but he's not really. Difference between Mr. Trump and most of the other politicians is that Trump never pretends to be, well, maybe he does, but he doesn't. He's a bit more he's a bit more transparent than most of the other politicians who pretend to have our interests at heart. Um, but yeah, the bigger, I guess maybe one day, probably not in our lifetimes, but who knows, we might go back to living in tribes, which is how we were meant to be living in the first place. I think, um, like where nobody, like there shouldn't be homelessness, just shouldn't exist. That's in a civilized society. Starvation wouldn't exist in a civilized society. Suicides would be virtually non-existent if everyone was if if we were living naturally. Things like that. And yeah, it is painful to see all the division, and yeah, sometimes I have to take a break from it, otherwise it affects my mental health.
Huh? It feels like the consequences of ignorance. Like things aren't being addressed. Because again, it's down to selfishness, isn't it? You know, if those countries that claim to have all this power and influence and money and can help, yeah, then wouldn't everything be equalized in the world and we would all be living equally? Because that's the
Yeah,
point, right? So again,
yeah,
it's my responsibility to sort that shit out then, you know, and somehow redress the balance. We just do as
yeah,
much as we can.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because yeah,
Yeah,
it's say it's very heavy. It can get you down. And also, like you say, the only thing that really cures that is, apart from like, your relationship with God, whatever you want
Mm.
to translate that as, it's like your the passion, fire, and what, your creative outlets.
Mm. Yeah, I often don't hold back when I'm writing things. Like I say, I think the last few years have actually helped me with that because my voice was silenced for such a long time. Like at school, I barely spoke to anybody. I was in my own world, and yeah, I guess I internalized a lot of things that are happening to me. Like I was picked on and bullied quite a bit. Um, I was in an environment which I wasn't suited to at all. I hated school, and yeah, and I spent years and years, decades even, of trying to be a square peg in a round hole. Um, Trying to fit into a work system which I wasn't suited to. Like I sometimes wondered why I was on low wage, low paid jobs while people my age and younger were working their way up. But like when you're very sensitive, whether you call it highly sensitive or autistic or whatever label one might like to give it, it's very hard to thrive in systems which weren't built for our needs. There's a lot of talk now about providing reasonable adjustments for um, quote unquote neurodivergent people. I hate that term, but I don't have a better word at the moment. And yeah, so it's becoming more awareness. But yeah, one thing I do want to kind of talk about is it's easy to be aware of something like autism or chronic illness or whatever, and different causes. Actually, taking steps to actually help other people that need help is another matter. And we can easily pay lip service to something like with all this diversity movement. Let's say it can be like it can be seen as really great when we're like, for example, let's say racism does now going back to football in the 80s when I first got into it. I was like players like John Barnes and Cyril Regis, all the brilliant black players of their day. It was the norm to have racist abuse from the terraces or even bananas thrown to them. And now it's almost gone too much in the other direction where there's lots of talk about kick it out and stop racism, but that's not dealing with the root cause. Um, and so somehow we have to get to that root cause. And a lot of that is, well, our own issues getting to the root cause is involves inner child work because it's our childhood have a huge impact on our adulthood. Yeah, so particularly for like we can say all these things, stop racism, stop sexism, misogyny, things like that, but it's as if it's like only surface level, and it's easy to kind of just do surface level shadow work as well. Like I thought I was doing shadow work, but I really wasn't. I was just scratching the surface, and it took a massive jolt to kind of really get help me get a grip on reality. I'm that's a word digressing there a bit, but you know what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I know what you mean. The mind is so powerful.
Yeah,
Like the amount of darkness we have to endure, our own hell, you
yeah,
know, because where can you run to when what you're running from is inside your head?
yeah, and it's like I think yeah, when people choose to take their own life because they can't see any way out. It's a very painful place to be when you're trapped in that place of despair. Like yeah, December last year was a very, very dark month for me. It was my birthday. I think your December birthday as well, isn't it? Both Sagittarians. Um, yeah, it was a really dark time, and there was one day where I just thought, well, I was having really dark thoughts about taking my life. And in the end, I couldn't do it. But yeah, sometimes we get to that place, and it's brutal. It's like we can't positive think our way out of very dark situations, and the positive thinking movement's got a lot to answer for. And sometimes you just got to put one step forward and just keep going, navigating the dark. And there were times where it was just almost a fight to stay alive, I thought. And I was quite out of touch with reality as well. And I just thought, oh, but I honestly wondered if I was going to die and what happens after death. Yeah, it's kind of, I'll talk, I may haven't really spoken too much about it on social media, and I probably won't for the time being. But yeah, it was a really dark time, and I guess I count myself lucky that I've always had an interest in, like even when I was a Christian, a bit of an interest in self-help and psychology and self-development, how the brain works. Um, yeah, I feel lucky with that.
And so, to sum up how you managed to get through those dark, long winters, because I, for
Mm,
one, know exactly what you're talking about, and surely everybody watching also is going to associate with because we're all here, right? And
yeah,
we'll know somebody who took their own life in this experience. That's how
yeah.
common it is. So, could you just tell us what really three things that sort of pulled you through?
I think having something to take your mind off things, even if it's like a temporary thing. That's like I really got into doing jigsaw puzzles around that time, um, and yeah, I will. So I've become a lot busy with other things, so I've kind of put that to one side. But yeah, it's doing what you can. I mean, I love music; it's my favorite hobby. But when I'm in a depressive state, I've found it pretty hard to listen to music. But I have been able to watch football or watch snooker or watch videos of train journeys. I think, yeah, bit of a train spotter sometimes, but yeah, things like that. So yeah, and that's I think that one thing that really helped. And again, going back to speaking to friends again, it's like I wasn't on Facebook for a few weeks. It was, yeah, I think when things start to turn around a bit is to when I started speaking to friends again, it really does make me feel more human, as it were. So I think they're the two things. I didn't leave the house for about 2 or 3 weeks because I was a wreck. Which, but as well, what normally does help is going out in nature when I can, hugging a tree. But yeah, I think hobbies are underrated personally. Um, I often think when truth is just say, "Oh, football, it's all bread and circuses." It's like, well, I don't care either. I don't understand why I like football. Honestly, I don't, but I do. So I think just finding things that we enjoy doing, whatever it may be. It could be, I don't know, playing video game. I know I've deliberately stayed away from video games for quite a long time because I would have the potential to get very addicted to them. But things like that, if it keeps you going, then yeah, why not?
If you're not harming anybody, it's nobody's
Yeah.
business. That's the point, and it like the biggest hobby in the world is judging other people's lives and what they're doing.
Oh, God, yeah, I know. Yeah, what about yourself? What have you found helpful?
uh, Leaning on my faith, basically some sort of blind delusion
Mm,
that things aren't as they appear. and it's all for a bigger picture that I can't quite grasp at the moment. Just
Yeah,
stumbling through life, one footstep at a time, or
yeah,
retreating into a dark corner for as long as I need to. Just surrendering it, learning to love my own darkness and the experience because of the very sort of polarizing nature of it. Because
yeah,
so that it don't take the light for granted, so that because that's what it's all about. It's just humbling us. Life
yeah.
is.
Oh, for sure, mate.
So what do you do now then with your time?
So yeah, I passed a proofreading editing course last year. It was kind of I had some signs that it was the right thing to do. A friend of mine, Susan, she sent me a message about, and there's no way she would have known, because I hadn't really told anybody I was thinking of doing a proofreading course, but she mentioned about proofreading being my gift, so I thought I took that as and other people I had spoken to about it said it would suit me, so I took that course in, was it? It was last year. Yeah, last year, and I started like after another mental health challenge towards the end of 2025. I started really getting back into that side of things, and things are moving nicely. I think, yeah, networking with other people's important as well. Um, and I took a bit of a break from communities and groups, but I went to the beach last night and had a bit of a music jam with some people from the Bournemouth community. So that was quite nice. And yeah, it just seems, and at the same time, I'm navigating my personal issues, my brain. Yeah, talking about blaming myself. Like I've blamed my brain functions so many times for holding me back, but it's like, yeah, I can read all these posts about ADHD or autism and how awful it can be, and yeah, it could be potentially, but at the same time, there's this determination just to whatever obstacles I face. It's like, uh, yeah, just to keep going and like asking for help, like with networking and getting more expert advice because there's this myth in certainly in the UK and America, no doubt, and probably quite a few other countries about myth of independence that we've got to do things on our own. It's weak to ask for help, but you don't know what you don't know, and it's like I'm just starting off in the business world after a long time of working for other people, and there's a lot of things I have to learn, and it's yeah, I'm just about to have my first paying client, fingers crossed, which is nice. And yeah, I'm reading books. My book section has changed a bit. I used to read mostly spiritual books, but now it makes up. I'm just looking. Got how many books? About around 15 books or so at the moment. Well, not including the travel books and art books, but yeah, it's a mixture of books I'm reading like, about health, about psychology, biographies. Yeah, I do love reading books and just trying to do whatever I can. Try to go out to the beach whenever I can. I'm still doing my music. I don't know where to go with that. Got into singing a lot more over the last year. I played the saxophone. Obviously, one can't sing and play the saxophone at the same time. So, even though I've always enjoyed singing, it was relegated behind my saxophone playing for a long time. But yeah, I'm getting into singing more. Um, I need to still sound. Keep saying I'm going to do another video, but I've not got around to it. Music video. But yeah, so that's my life at the moment. It gets a bit frustrating. I'm not going to lie when I can't always do what I'd like to do ideally, but just as I say, got to try and make the most of it and turn um, turn dust into gold, turn the dust into gold if that's possible.
Sounds like a plan.
Hmm. Yes, it is.
So yeah, we're gonna have to wrap it up about here. But oh, thank you for being the first guest. It's been an
Thank
honor
you.
to speak to you, bro, as always.
Yes.
So do you want to give people what's your social media status? You know, where can they find you? And for proofreading,
So the we can hopefully there'll be a way of putting the links on when you got to put the podcast on YouTube. What channel are you going to use?
yeah, post it on you. I've set up a YouTube channel specifically for this podcast, so it'll be put
Perfect.
on
Yeah,
there. But I'll share that on Facebook
yeah,
anyway.
but yeah, the links will be shared on Ben's YouTube post. But yeah, to find me on Facebook or LinkedIn, it's my handle is Andrew M Bowker. M for Mark is my middle name. Um, so yeah, www.facebook.com/Andrew M Bowker. And the website, it's going live pretty soon. I've still got to make 1 or 2 weeks, but the address is https:// new beginnings proofreading and editing.com. I don't expect you to remember that in one go, but yeah, it'll be on Ben's channel. So
We
yeah,
can,
connect with
yeah.
me there. I'm on Instagram as well as Andy Bowker 74. But yeah, I'll put all the links in the channel. Don't I still refuse to use Twitter.
I don't blame you. I tried it, and I tried TikTok, and I tried Instagram. It's too much information. I
Yeah,
can't. So Facebook's enough for me, and
so,
YouTube just a little bit.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, thank you for your time and your energy.
you're welcome.
And I'll probably see you soon at some point. Anyway, you know, out and
Fingers.
about. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll see you soon.
Alrighty, brother. All right. Take care. All
Yeah,
right.
love.
Lots
Bye-bye.
of love. Bye bye.